Okay. Welcome everyone to our monthly Collaberex workshop. I'm so happy today to have Paul Carson here talk about AI. The title of his workshop is The AI Workforce Redefining Roles and Efficiency. Paul is co-founder with Kitty of Enable, where they both build AI-powered content marketing digital twins that streamline your brand growth and help you create a vibrant online presence by actually mimicking your unique voice. And Paul is a certified AI and automation specialist, among many other things. So, Paul, why don't you take it from here? Welcome.
Thank you, Jonathan. And yeah, thank you everyone for showing up today and for all those who have registered and are watching the recording. And yes, the goal for this workshop is really to just involve you all as much as possible, answer a lot of those questions that you may have about AI, and then also ask you guys some questions and get an idea of how it's all working in your ecosystem. But essentially, just helping you understand how you can work really well with AI and how we can all start to view it as an ally and a tool that's going to help our businesses grow and become better at what they do, rather than how it feels at the moment where it's like AI is going to replace me or AI is just kind of a gimmick that doesn't really help in the business side. There's only really those two. There's people who think they'll be replaced, and there's people who think that it's just kind of a gimmick. And through a mixture of what Enable does and some research that's come out and your questions, I kind of hope to show you all how AI can be a really useful tool. And then, yeah, we can just take it from there. I mean, Jonathan gave a really good introduction there. It was almost word for word what I had written down for myself to say that, yes, I am a certified AI and automation specialist. Essentially, Enable has an AI partner in which we build AI apps for businesses for. And I have gone through the extensive training to become a certified specialist, understanding sort of prompting and becoming a close collaborator with them, helping them develop their platform and stuff like that. And we'll get into that later on. And yes, Enable builds what we call AI digital twins. And I'm not going to delve too much into it now because I want to ask you guys what you think that is as we go on. But yeah, as more people are stuff popping in, we'll just set a few kind of ground rules for the workshop. And obviously, when we think of AI, that just kind of refers to any sort of artificial intelligence that is like simulating a human action. So that can be anything. There's loads of ways that we would do that. But what we're going to cover here today is more generative AI, which is what we've all come to know and love over the past few years as that sort of buzzword, ChatGPT, OpenAI, Gemini, Claude, all those types of things. And basically, if you're to define them simply, it's something that can generate text or image based on an input. The input being what you type in, the output is what it produces. That's what we class as generative AI in the simplest form. You don't need to know any more than that. And then on top of that, what you have on that is something which is called a custom GPT, which is essentially taking generative AI and giving it a more specific role. And what that means is you can add knowledge bases and instructions to this. So that's kind of the next level up from generative AI, and that's what Enable builds. So I like to think of them as being able to give your AI a brain, if that makes sense. So you can give it knowledge, like it has a brain, and then through the instructions and the questions you ask it, you can dictate how it will behave, as opposed to generative AI, where it's very kind of general. So the first question I want to have for everyone, which I have written down here, is a very simple question is what do you know that ChatGPT can do? So what do you know for an absolute 100% certainty that ChatGPT can do for you right now? And I want you guys to just like put in the chat something, whether it's like it can help me with X, it can do X. What do you know that it can be used for? And I just want to get an idea what everyone's thinking because for me, I have it from a completely different background. So I'm going to open that here, write code, write a blog post, revise drafts. AI can help me draft an agenda, analyze data. I get, oh, this is all amazing. Thank you so much, everyone. Not 100% sure of anything, Marie. Thank you so much for saying that. That's the whole point of this here is we're going to go over what it can do, and you're getting some excellent ideas right now of what it can do. This is amazing. Summaries, write a rhyming poem with lyrics from a song. That's so cool, Wendy. I'm assuming you have done that. That's really interesting. Yeah. Summarizing emails and documents. Exactly. Yeah. Just really good at producing these texts. Sorry, was someone trying to say something there? No? Oh, anyway. Translation. Yeah, exactly. So these are all very, very good use cases. And this is all just, I'm assuming this is all everyone's done with ChatGPT and things like Claude or Gemini. And then the next question I would like to ask everyone, based on that, is now you've kind of told me what you know it can do. I want you to now write down some things that you think it can do. You're not 100% sure, but you've maybe heard it or you've maybe had a thought that, oh, I think AI could do this, but you don't know for absolute certainty. If you can write down anything that comes to mind, this can be anything, and we'll have a little chat about that as well, and see if there's anything interesting that comes up. Write Excel formulas, grammar, create content, create a specific image. Write Excel formulas, yeah. I think it definitely could, Jessica. You would be able to ask it and it would produce the formula. Create content, absolutely it can, Mary. So it's good that you asked that, and that's actually what we do here. Create a specific image. Yes, it can actually as well. So this is something that it can do. If you use ChatGPT, it has an image creation tool within it, and you can write in what you want, and it will create an image. Create a marketing brochure, mimic a salesman asking questions, take SEO words. Wow, there's so many cool ideas in here. Manage my calendar, be a personal assistant, fold my laundry. Yeah, I mean, we're not quite there yet, but there's probably going to be a folding laundry robot at some point. Review my website and tell me edits that it would be SEO optimized. These are all some really, really, really cool ideas. And I think the one comment I would have is that yeah, a lot of them are really, really good. Like, let's take, for example, Wendy, who's saying, like, review my website and tell me edits that I could make it to SEO optimize. Yeah. So what I would say there is this is when AI can be seen as a more generalist tool because what you've got there, Claire, is a really, really specific issue that you need support with. And generative AI is going to be able to help, but its suggestion is probably going to be very random. That would kind of be the main limiting point there. Um, and what you would say is that like you need something more specialist, which is what we're going to delve into later. But yeah, I think these are all really, really good points. Be a personal assistant, manage my calendar. Again, a lot of these things are actually generative AI would not be able to do, but AI in some form can actually help you with that. So I think it's very interesting that you've all started to really get into these ideas. And then just for a bit of fun, very, very similar to what Lisa was saying, folding my laundry. What do you wish it could do? What do you wish AI could do in an ideal world? There's no limitations here. What can AI do? And you might be surprised because all the things in here about what they think it can do, besides the folding laundry, there is a solution for that. There is 100% a solution for that that already exists. And we're going to delve into how you find them later on. Give me the winning lottery number. That would be brilliant. That would be insane. Imagine. Yeah, be trusted to be better than my brain. I'm sure your brain is perfect, Mary. You don't need it to do that. That's too much. Qualify leads, find email addresses of CEOs. Okay, Lawrence, I like that idea. Yeah, I can see how that would be very, very useful. I wanted to go further and calculate calories and put in a grocery list. Which stores have the best prices? Wow, that's very good. That actually leans into one of the other branches of Paul and the things that I do. Stock investment. Okay, so yeah, like actually investing the stock or just giving you the information in the stock, Ola. That's an interesting one. I like that. Be another me and talk to my clients. Okay. Yeah, so I mean all very, very, very like um plausible things that I'm hearing here. And a lot of this stuff can actually already be done in a way. And we're going to talk about that soon about how that works. But again, if someone would be so kind as to maybe put off their mic and tell me a little bit about their experiences with I would love for someone to share one way in which they've used like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, just these basic AI tools, and they've been really happy with the results. Whatever it is, if as many of you can do it as you like, you can just raise a hand and then put off your mic and tell me like and tell everyone how you've used it and that you are happy with the results. That's the important thing here, is that you used it in a case where it made you happy with the results. Yeah, Janine, will pass the floor to you.
I use it to get me started on blog posts so I can have something to work from and rip it to shreds. And I've also inputted a bunch of my blog posts from the past so that it kind of mimics my way of talking or writing.
I
So
love that.
that's
So
mostly,
can I ask you what have you been using then, first of all,
I
to do
use
this?
ChatGPT,
Is
and
this just the free version as well? Because that's always important.
it is the free version, and it's been
Very good.
really amazing.
So you would basically, would you send a link to your old blog post or would you like upload a file or something and then it would read it?
I've just uploaded, I just copied and pasted. I said
Nice.
these are blog posts I've written in the past. Give and then I've when it writes, I say in my voice, write a blog post about X, and it goes ahead and writes it. and and I haven't had to change a lot of it, but I do. There's some certain things I would add, like uh, things about clients, things like that, and then I would ask it, "Why do you think this sounds like me?"
Hmm.
And it gives me reasons.
Oh, that's super cool. I love that. So you said you were quite pleased with it. So are you happy because it does it so quickly or that it's fairly high quality? Like, what do you like about using this as a way of writing a blog as opposed to what you did before?
Well, I used to have hire a person in marketing who would
Hmm.
write something that I could then rip apart. And
Rip it to shreds. I like
yes,
that. Yeah.
basically, that's my style. But then I find that this is basically takes the function of this person away,
Hmm.
and a lot of the stuff is coming from me anyway. So
Mm,
it's
okay.
super helpful, and the blog posts have been doing super, super well on, Google.
Yeah. So not only have the blog posts been doing well, it's probably saved you some time, and then
A
obviously
huge amount of
a bit
time,
of money as well, because you don't have to involve the person anymore.
money and time. Yes.
Okay, that's amazing. Fantastic. Thank you so much for sharing that, Gene. That was super very interesting. I loved that. Pierce, I think I had you up next, if that's all right.
Sure. Yeah, I've used it for the kind of the obvious stuff, even marketing ideas and stuff. But the most powerful feature that I've used so far is writing really complex SQL queries, where it's the code it's brought back has been pretty amazing. What would take me a very long time
Mm,
to figure out. Not your average stuff, but like when I got to do something with date breaks, I could just what suffice it to say, it's complicated and it's not always so, like with the last time I did it, it gave me like five options, and not they didn't all work, but the third one
mm-hmm,
worked, and I was able to work. And I find that if you give it, it's like I don't know. My experience has been if you give, the more you give it information like table names and field names and things like that, then the code that comes back is more usable. And I think that's true
mm,
of anything with the prompt. The more information you give the
yeah,
agent, the better your results are going to be. And that can be quite extensive based on whatever you're doing. But, that could be
yeah.
reams of data.
Very cool. So you've been using it more from coding and programming side of things. And again, would this just be ChatGPT as well? Yeah.
Gemini and ChatGPT. Yeah.
Gemini and ChatGPT. Do you notice
Mhm.
any kind of difference between the two for that use case or?
Um, no, they've been pretty accurate. I think on image generation, they differ.
Mm,
And I found that neither of them do music very well. If you're asking for something that sounds like a certain sound, I found those been big swings and misses.
yeah, yeah.
But
Very,
so it's no Pandora in terms of that. That
very
seems to be a
cool.
little
And
bit laggy.
then for you again, would you say the main sort of impact is time saving, really? Like just
Yeah, oh
or
yeah, totally. I mean, with the SQL stuff would save me hours and hours, even if I could figure it out.
wow,
They were
that's super cool.
complicated things that I was trying to get doing it,
Yeah.
and hey, it seems like it works, so I don't know.
Yeah, I love that.
It
That's super
returns
cool.
numbers, so I mean, I'm happy.
Yeah, I love that because we've gone from something, marketing and blogging to something completely different in the coding space,
Yeah,
but the same tool being used. And again, that same idea of just helping us save the time. Again, with you and similar, we were saying, you need to do some tweaking and editing. It's not like it just jumps out the box ready to go, but it still saves you a lot of time.
yeah.
So thank you so much, Bill. That was amazing. Thank you so much. I think I've got Claire up next, if you wouldn't mind. And tell us how you've been using it and a good result as well, because we're going to get into the negatives after as well.
And I'm making lunch, which is why I periodically go dark. So I'm an AI junkie, and I live in chat all the time. I use it I'm just finished writing all the lessons for my leadership course, and I did the writing, but I got ideas like, am I capturing all the points? If I were going to make this, what points? So it gives me that. Um, Claude is a much better writer.
Mhm.
So I decided this morning to change from first person to third person. So Claude is rewriting it in my third person rather than first person, taking a little bit for it to get it. And then I wanted to find out this morning about Perplex, like what is Amazon and publishers, what are they saying about AI assistance in writing a book? And I found out from Perplexity, because I wanted the sources, that if you have AI assist and you're clear about it, then you're okay. So it's still my concepts. They're mainly my words. And then because I'm doing a narrated slideshow, I'm using Gamma, which is an online slideshow generator to generate all my slideshows. So
Wow.
I love it. And I have another one called Sintra, which has given me 12 little assistants that all do different things. The jury's out on it, but it was cheap and I experimented with it. So I'm a huge proponent of it. Not to say that people like Susanna who write blogs are not invaluable, because they are, because you want to make sure that they're capturing the voice. So many people still need people like Susanna to write their blogs. Oh, and the other thing I did was I had to write proposals for the
Hmm.
leadership training course, and I took it back and forth between a couple different ones to make sure my proposals covered all my points. So, and I'm actually teaching my clients how to use AI. So I love it, and I'm
Wow.
happy that you're doing this, and thank you.
No, thank you so much for sharing all that. Yeah, super interesting. Yeah, I remember we've spoken about this before and we were both just saying AI, AI, AI. That's very interesting. And Sintra as a company I've been keeping an eye on, so I'll maybe follow up with you and ask you what your experience has been like. But thank you so much.
Happy to.
I've also got Bill's hand up as well, if you wouldn't mind sharing.
Sure, Paul. I'm pretty much of a novice at this as compared to the previous. But yeah, if I need a phrase or a word either describing myself or the work I'm doing, I'll throw it out there, and what the results are amazing. Just yesterday,
Hmm.
I gave it like literally a page full of information. I said, I'm going to be sending you something. I want you to summarize it in 2 sentences. And it said, sure, send it to us. A whole page, and poof, it did it. But then, if you don't like it a little bit, I say, make it shorter. Bingo. Make it longer. Bingo. Give me your bullet points. But I mean, it's so quick. It understands everything so quickly. And the
Yeah.
and the other example is that I'm the president of a nonprofit organization, and we need to put a disclaimer in there because we video the sessions, and sometimes people don't want to be caught in there. I've spoken to a couple of lawyers, and I mean, I was just dragging and dragging and dragging. And finally, I just said, let me throw it into chat. And I just said, chat, tell me what it is. Poof, second, and it was there and it was perfect, and I'm using it. So yeah, it's very impressive, and I really should be using it lots more.
Amazing. I love that. That you just reminded me of one other thing that I'll need to mention right as well, but that's super useful. And again, would that just be ChatGPT you've been using, Bill? Just like,
It's a free version, yeah, and
yeah,
you know what? I don't know the difference, but I have two of them. One says 4.0, another one says something else. I don't know. I don't even know what the difference is.
yeah, yeah. It's just the models that they're using. They're always updating it, and I think on the free version you only get a certain amount of credits on the highest, most latest version, and then after a while it drops down to 3.5, which basically only knows things up until 2013. It's just all of its data as until then, and that's it. So if you ask it things, it's gonna do other things. Which I guess is like one of the key topics. While it's on my mind, I'll just mention it, is that particularly with more sensitive things when it comes to maybe law or you're looking for high quality results, AI does this thing called hallucinations where it gives you a result which sounds amazing, sounds like it's a fact, but it might not actually be. So it's always good as well to start checking, is it actually things. So if you ask it a very specific question, maybe it's about a law or a tax or something like that that you're not sure of in a different state, and it gives you information, ask for the source and the link so that you can check, because it's really, really good. It's called hallucinations. When it doesn't know, its goal is to give you an output, end of. So when it doesn't know, it just makes stuff up. And it sounds really, really good. So that's always something to consider, is to check that. But that's really, really cool. And I wouldn't say you're a novice. You're using it for very good things there as well, just like getting those quick results back. So that's amazing. I think this is really cool, and honestly, so pleased that everyone's been sharing. It's always the scariest thing when you want people to participate and then you want them to, but you've all been great. And now AI is getting a lot of praise right now. So I want to keep the same theme when we're thinking about generative AI, Claude, and ChatGPT, but I want people to, if they can, share an experience of it not going so well, of when they weren't happy with the result, of when they didn't think it was useful, when maybe they thought, well, I'll use this for this in my business, but then they stopped because they just thought it was a waste of time. So I would like to hear some maybe negative experiences if that's okay, because it's not perfect. It's like anything else. Does anyone have any negative experiences where they've used it and thought, oh, it's not actually very good for this?
We just find that you do have to carefully review everything because first of all, it uses certain weird words that don't sound like a person. So you kind of have to really read through and see what it's saying. And to your point just a minute ago is it doesn't always get the facts right.
And it's too elementary sometimes.
Yeah.
Too elementary. What do you mean? Like it's like too simple or not specific
Yeah,
enough, I
sometimes
suppose?
Sometimes it's too simple. Sometimes it's too the opposite. It sounds too complex.
Yeah,
Ask
yeah.
it, yeah. So
I
those
love
are
that.
just some of
Yeah.
the things you have to be aware of.
Yeah, and particularly when you start thinking about creating content with it, it loves to use the unlock and revolutionize, and rocket ships are everywhere. And then, you start seeing that. So yeah, I get exactly what you mean. And it's a very, very good point. Janina, see, you've got your hand up again. And thank you so much, Irene the Dead. That was very, very useful. I like that. I like that. Very good.
I tried to use Gemini a few months ago. It's like maybe no, it was last fall when they were pushing it big time.
Hmm.
And I found it incredibly obnoxious and not useful. So I skipped Gemini. And I just focused my energy and attention on ChatGPT because some colleagues had told me about it and that I should be looking at it. And I haven't gone back to Gemini only because of I'm sure it's probably better now, but it's still they're trying to push it and
Uh-huh.
opening it up when I don't want it. So I like my opinion of it is what it is, and it's probably going to stay that way.
Yeah.
But I like Chat GPT, so that's what I'm going to stay with. And I don't use it to ask, I don't use it as a query function. A lot of people I know do, and I don't trust anything that is not real. Like to me, it's like it's really great for writing. It's great for checking your grammar. It's great for content, like kind of getting you started on content. But I wouldn't I wouldn't use it for anything else, maybe except Excel spreadsheet, formulas, which that's like sounds like a nightmare to have that as your job. But for the most part, I feel like if you have a bad experience, you're gonna turn away from it. And
Mm.
and so I did with Gemini.
Oh, so interesting. I love that obnoxious. It's such like a human way of expressing it. Like I'm starting to think that it was being like cheeky and giving you like really like bad responses or whatever. Like, did it just not, or was it more the way that Google pushed Gemini to you
It
that
was
was
the
obnoxious?
language it used. It
Oh, very
didn't
interesting.
sound, I mean, I think I asked it to write an email, in response to an email, and it was just obnoxious.
Ooh,
It wasn't
yeah.
the way a person would talk. So it's something I would have had to take and completely write myself. And I thought that was, you know, totally wasting my time.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. We'll go back to Pierce again. You've got your hand up again. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I would just echo something that Claire said in the chat that with Word, if you try to do images and you say, like I tried to do a logo for, it's like 2 or 3 word thing, and it invariably messed up one of the letters, and you just think that should be a simple thing. Now, I don't know if it's doing it intentionally because it doesn't want you doing that because it's too
Mm,
easy. But it came up with some good logos, but the words were wrong. It's like the letters, like 1 or 2 of the letters were always misspelled and or missing, and it's just like, how does it get that wrong? So that's just kind of weird. I have not seen it actually be able to do a series of, let's say, 3 words correctly if you
yeah,
want to put it within an image, and that's
yeah.
just a bizarre thing. And the images are all they tend to be really sci-fi, and you can try to coach it away from that, but it's not like I've seen some stuff that's photorealistic, but I think it's pay a premium for that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, I'm walking around like, I mean, me and Kate are in Budapest right now, walking around the city, and we always just go, oh, that's an AI generated ad. We can tell now,
Mhm.
you can see it when it's like an AI
Yeah.
generated image. And yeah, totally agree, particularly with these image generators that exist in generative AI, like the free tools. Yeah, they don't do a great job of it. But what people do is they take that technology and they put like a different package on it, and then you can create images in a bit more of a specific way. So you can edit colors and you can have a bit more. So there are like higher end AI tools that use all of the data that Claude and
Mhm.
ChatGPT use, but they use it to generate images and they're more specific. But that's a nice wee segue to what we'll talk about later. But I really want to highlight, Marie, your comment here. That is honestly the furthest thing from a dumb question. I have it on the list. We're going to talk about it. So don't worry, that's a very, very important question and something that people always ask me. So I made sure that I read up on the subject and I know it so that I can share it. So don't worry, we will discuss that later. Marie was talking about cybersecurity and stuff like that, which is super, super important. So yeah, what are they doing with the data? I'll tell you, so don't worry. Susanna's got a hand up as well.
So this happened a while ago, and I guess I trained it very well, and it hasn't done it since. But in the beginning, when I was using chat, which I use a lot, I use it so much that I actually talk to it more than I talk to real people at this point, which is kind of sad, but productive at the same time. So I was developing, and I still am, a women's program, a women's business development program. So I was asking it to come up with ideas for marketing for a social media post or a web page or whatever. And just words around marketing for this women's business development initiative that I was doing. And I was like playing around with ideas for the name of the group and things like that. And it kept coming up with verbiage. I'm very, very strong minded about words. Choice of words mean everything to me. And the choice of words I felt were kind of degrading towards women and only used in describing something for women. And I kept saying, no, this is women business owners. This is not a bunch of 12-year-old girls. Like, get with the program here. But it kept saying things like, well, my pet peeve is it use the word empower, and empower means to give someone power, but they never say that when it comes to men. So men
Mm,
don't need to be empowered, but women
mm-hmm.
do apparently. And so I read it, the rule book, and I said, no, that doesn't fly with me. And this is what I need you to say. And I actually did a little experiment after I said, write something for this women's group, and it used all these words. And I said, now write the same thing for an all inclusive. And it did not use those words. like flourish and nurture and empower, very, pink words. And I'm like, no, we don't do that here. And so I think by now I've kind of trained it, and I am using the paid version. So I think it finally got with the program, and it felt to my displeasure.
That's so interesting, though. Thank you so much for sharing that. So I guess you just kind of use the same sort of chat over and over again. You just go back into the same chat and it's got all the history of the things you've said previously. Is that kind of how you're doing it now?
Yeah, actually by now I've actually developed a team. So I created a chat bot for the different things that I do for a living,
Nice.
including my 7-day meal plan. I told it what kind of diet I'm in, and it creates, recipes and whatever for me. But yes, I have one that helps me with the writing. It helps me with Collaberex agendas. It helps, so I have a different
Mm-hmm.
chat bot for everything.
That's so interesting, though. I wonder why. Obviously,
You do exactly.
AI is data. You think you're wondering this is a reflection on the data that's available in the society as a whole, which is maybe still not very where it should be. But then I also know that AI uptake has been a lot higher in men than it has been in women as well, which is interesting. They always bring up this statistic whenever we have meetings with our partners in AI and stuff. They always say like the numbers are increasing, but it's still like men are much more open about saying, "Hey, I use AI." So it's very weird that
I'm
it
going to
had
say
that. But
this as delicately as possible. I was asking it to create images of like typical woman business owner. And
uh-huh.
the drawing they made was obviously I mean, it was clear that some teenage boys version of a
Interesting.
woman business owner. I'm going to leave it at that. Use your imagination. But also I
Yeah.
think I'm using Chat GPT 4, and maybe I was using 3 earlier. So maybe that has something to do with it.
I was just
Yeah.
going to say the paid versions of all of these, once you upgrade, it does make a huge difference.
Significantly
Yeah,
better.
significantly. That's the whole point. The free ones are okay, but
Yeah.
paid ones, we now have a few of them, and they're all a little different, and they sound different, and they write differently. So yeah, you kind of have to experiment and possibly have a few different ones.
Yeah, fantastic. Yeah, that's such an interesting point, Susanna. I did not expect to be thinking about it, but that's very, very interesting. I wonder. Yeah, I'm gonna have an experiment with that myself. And yeah, that's a very, very good point, Irene, as well. Yeah, that's kind of how they market it at the end of the day. Like that's their way of making their money, I suppose. Even though initially, the CEO of ChatGPT, he spent his whole life saying that this is for everyone. This is a tool for the people, and like, he wanted it to make everyone's life easier and better. But then I think the investors and the executives were like, no, we need money. So yeah, maybe that's why they started doing that. Jonathan, you've got your hand up as well.
Yeah.
What would you...
So I like what Susanna said because I am very against anything that's inauthentic. And the content that's created has to be your content, not, I really don't like it when people say, "Oh, I want a blog post and write it on, 5 ways to be a better leader or whatever." And then AI writes something and they accept it and put it out as their own when it's
Mm,
not, it's really not their thoughts. But to help fashion your own ideas or outline on what you're trying to say and then tweak it as you go along and say, no, no, that's not what I meant. That's not my voice. That doesn't feel right. To do that, I think it's a great tool. I also think it's a terrible tool where people just use it to automatically respond to social media posts. I see it all the
mm-hmm,
time on LinkedIn, and I see a response, and I think they put no effort or no thought, and you can actually tell because it just kind of repeats a section of what the post was and then like repeats it back and then puts some like obvious silly comment or question, well, what do you think of that? And it's just so obvious and inauthentic. And I think we have
mm-hmm.
to maintain, our humanness, our connection, our authenticity between us. So
Yeah, that's very, very beautiful, very well put. Yeah, exactly. We're all aware of when something's generated with AI now. So it's about finding that balance, I think, between what should still stay a very human 100% task, what should be given to AI and what should you work together on, like Jonathan's saying, like what can you work together with so that it's not 100% AI, but equally not 100% you, because your time is very, very important, and that's always the most the lucrative thing with it. And I'm noticing Jill here. Um, Obviously, I just seen that quote comment from you there, Jill. A friend asked ChatGPT to write a blog about her, and it came back to say she had suffered racism at work. So I guess, Jill, you don't have to take off the camera and mute and talk about this because it sounds a bit more sensitive, but I would maybe presume that it was because it was one of those hallucinations that I was talking about. Because if I go into ChatGPT right now and say, write a post about Paul, it's not going to know exactly who I am, but what it's going to do is it's maybe just going to scour the internet and make up something about some person called Paul. But I'm not too sure what's going on there. But thank you everyone so much for that. That was really, really good. And it kind of brings us on nicely to where a study I was reading that came out in 2025. It was from a German university, and essentially, they spent a lot of time with an e-commerce company and they were interviewing all the different people in the company, from developers, people who were working in the coding, from people in marketing, from people in sales, from management and decision makers and everything. And this goal of the study was just about ChatGPT. How are you using it? And simply like we did today, like, is it good or what's it not good at? And it was very, very interesting because they all kind of came to one general conclusion, which was beautifully put and said by one of the guys. And I'm just going to share my screen, one of the people in the thing. Let me see. And here's the quote here. And essentially, what one of the people in the study said was that this is just with ChatGPT. So he said the more specialized you get and the deeper you are into a subject, the less you need this generalist tool, which is generally good at doing many things, but not perfect and diving deep into something I would need perfectly. Which I think is actually a really nice way of summing it up in a sense that, when you've just got like a top level problem, whether it's an issue where you're trying to tackle some grammar or you can't think of a word or it's just an idea on something, you can go there right away and get it. But when you want like a really, really good output that's exactly like you, like your business and your tone of voice or whatever, or to the specifics of the code of the company that you're trying to build, that's where you start this whole back and forth chain and it becomes less useful, which is essentially what we've been talking about there. There are good elements to it and there are bad elements to it. So I thought that was really, really nice. And what this sort of information led me to think about is I will stop sharing that and share a different one. Is essentially like how we can stop the share. And then this one is like everyone has been talking about, there are more tools available than just ChatGPT. And this is kind of where Enable and what we do fits into the puzzle as well. And what I kind of want everyone to start thinking about is as your problems or desires with your business get more specific, that's when you need a more specific tool. And more likely than not, it actually exists already. So let's say you want to really just fix the SEO, because someone in the chats was saying, hey, I want help with SEO. If you Google AI for SEO, there will be a company, I already know of them, called SEO.ai, and they have built essentially a chat bot and a service on the back of the chat bot that will look at your website and tell you exactly what's wrong with it in the SEO, and then give you examples for your blog. And it also aims to understand your tone of voice. But something like ChatGPT is never going to be able to do that because it's never going to have enough information to like get that specific. So when you just need that top level stuff, that's when these tools are good. And even as they develop, they'll never have that specific sort of response that's specific to you and your business and what you do because they don't know. They only know if you tell it. And obviously, every time to prompt it can take a lot of time. And the results, you're not sure of the results because they're just pulling the information generally rather than from a specific skill set that someone has given it already. And like, this is where what we do at Enable and why I think it becomes so valuable, particularly for all of us small business owners, is that when you have a really specific problem in your business or a specific need, whether it's to create content in your own tone of voice, whether it's to like audit your LinkedIn profile or make any adjustments, get some ideas, or in Jonathan's case, help him create his Collaberex agendas. You can never do that with just ChatGPT because it needs the knowledge of how to actually build that Collaborex agenda, or it needs the knowledge of how to create a blog in your tone of voice. And there is a way around that, and that is the world of custom GPTs. And I am going to show my screen. No, I'm going to put this one off. Stop sharing. And yeah, and that's where you have to start thinking about when there are more specific tools that we've needed. So obviously everyone's already mentioned a few, you can get these image creation ones. And yes, if I just refer back to my little flow, that's like essentially what we do at Enable. And what I mean is that we specialize in building content marketing digital twins. Essentially, AI copies of you and your business. Jonathan is one of the beautiful examples of it. There is a mini Jonathan that exists on his phone, as I like to call them. And essentially, it has the knowledge of Collaborex. It has the knowledge of, what Jonathan is, what he's passionate about. It knows his LinkedIn profile. It knows his website. It knows all of those things so that when Jonathan goes to and asks a question, it gets a response that's really ready, out the box, good to go. And I'm going to display this. I'm going to do a little live test on myself to show you kind of what I mean. Because obviously there is a mini Paul in existence, which is what I like to call them, because I like Austin Powers. So that's only really a funny joke if you ever watched Austin Powers. If not, just think of them as AI digital twins. And yeah, with a specialist focused on content marketing. So video scripts, blogs, social media posts, social media ideas, content calendars, because not only do they know your business, they also have that skill set. And I'll explain a little bit of how we give them that skill set. But first of all, let's just show it in action, because that's the biggest thing. If you're in the AI space and you're trying to get people involved, is you show, don't tell. So let's see if I got my mini poll open. I do. And we've still got time. We've still got time. Don't worry. So here is mini Paul here. And I would say, let's start with, can you tell me who Paul is and what he does? Now, if I put this into ChatGPT, I would just get a totally random response because Paul is a very common name. I think we can all agree on that. So I've just put this response in here, and you can see we've got a lot of stuff here. It's actually digging into my personal life beyond Enable, which is kind of creeping me out. So it's saying it's got an AI and automation specialist, Enable, Global Superstars community. This is all truth, and Paul helps small businesses grow effectively and cut costs by building AI custom solutions. And he's well recognized. He's won a medal at a competition. This is true. I did. I entered an AI competition and built an AI app and won a medal. And I have also created a digital physiotherapy solution. I have. That is true. That is very true. And I do also have a DJ alter ego name, which is Neptune. So yes, it does know. And it's all knows that from just Paul. And the reason that it knows all this is because it has a knowledge base, so a sort of predetermined set of knowledge in its brain. So instead of it searching the internet for answers, it searched the knowledge base, which is a mixture of, it could be YouTube videos, could be LinkedIn posts, it could be your website, and anything that I give it. So it's only going to have the knowledge of what I give it. And then I give it a particular set of instructions and sort of write a way that it should behave so that when everybody asks the questions, it gives this kind of result. Let's ask it, what is your role? This is live. I've not really done this, so I'm not sure what's going to happen, but I hope it just articulates my point that it's going to give us quite a specific answer on what its role is rather than a very generalist answer. Although the tension is killing me, so I'm not too sure here. Unlike anything, technology, it's not perfect. Here we go. Perfect as well. I am a skilled content marketer following the principles of various guidelines and documents related to advertising and social media platforms. My role is to create content that matches the tone and style of Paul Carson, helping to attract his ideal clients and elevate his brand. This is perfect. This is like the best response I could have ever hoped for. This is exactly what I wanted to do. Because that's the other thing is that I actually tell it to write in my tone of voice, my type writing style. It's all pre-built into it. You don't see any rocket emojis. You don't see anything like that because it's already been pre-built like that out of the box. So that is really, really important here. So this is like the top level of what AI can do. When it gets more specific, it can be amazing and it can do exactly what you want it to do, but it needs to have been designed in that way. And I think that's the most important thing. And if any of you want to experiment with that sort of thing, then I would suggest signing up with our partner who's called Chip. And this is a great place where you can do this. I'll send out some communications after about them. They have a free sort of version of their platform where you could build your own apps and you can even use your own, you can even pick different language models. So you don't need to use ChatGPT or Gemini. You can switch between them all. There's like 10 on there, loads you'll have never even heard about. I have a referral link, so I will send a communication with Jonathan after it so that even everyone in the who's on the recording can access that too. But equally,
I've put it in the chat. It's in the chat.
oh, it's in the chat. It's in the chat. Now, there are a couple more things that I would like to cover, a few more questions. But while we're on the roll and while he's helping me out, what I would say is if this sort of information and this perspective on AI is very interesting to you, then me and Katie and our digital twins have written a really, really in-depth AI guide. And in that, we talk about this idea in a lot more detail, what the custom GPT is, why you need to think about these specific outcomes, how much money and time they can actually save you, and what good results they can actually give you. We talk a lot about what other companies are doing, not necessarily Enable, and we talk a lot about the space in general. So it's a really good place to just understand more about this topic. Just a nice wee read through. Looks really nice. I believe Katie has just dropped it in the chat as well. So if you click on that, you can just download a copy and have a little read through it. It's very, very interesting. We're very proud of it. And like I say, it's more focusing on continuing this conversation of getting more specific with the outcomes of AI and seeing the capabilities beyond just ChatGPT. So it's super, super cool. And yeah, I would say finally, if anyone is like really, really interested and ready to go now, wants a digital twin, wants a mini Susanna or a mini Eileen or whatever, then Katie is going to drop a link and you can have a little chat with me if you want to explore that more. And you can book a call and we can talk about what this process looks like, what it's like to work with Enable, and how this would work. Because yeah, I would really love to build you all a little digital version of yourself that can really streamline your content. So I would love to do that. So yeah, Kitty's dropped the link, yeah? She has. Fantastic. Got a nod. So yeah, please book a call and talk to me. And I would love to do that. And then I'm just gonna go over the last few points, the last big questions, and then hopefully that'll be it. Jonathan, do you want to say something? Sorry.
I just wanted to just quickly talk about my experience in working with you and in
That was
building
on the
my
list, yeah.
this mini Jonathan. You know, Paul said he needs data, he needs content. So my goal was to help me create Collaberex agendas based on content that's already out there that I like. So maybe it's a 5-minute TED talk, and it will take that I've seen and I like, and I want to make an agenda out of that. So Paul had me upload, I don't know, 20 to 25 agendas and 20 to 25 guidelines on ones that I've already created. So it understands my voice and it understands the formats and everything that I need to do. And now, instead of me watching a TED Talk and saying I like it and then watching it again and taking notes and making that into guidelines and then making the guidelines into a time-stamped agenda, it does it all very instantaneously. And it's in my voice and in my format, and then I just tweak it as it goes along. I'll say, no, use this introduction instead, or we want to end this way, or this is how we want to introduce ourselves, or whatever we might be, or no, I want 2 breakouts, not 1 breakout. And it just follows it, and it has really been helpful in summarizing content that has made our meetings, just improve the meeting experience for our members.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for saying that, Jonathan. And yeah, I think just to close it out, I'm going to answer the 3 most common questions I get about AI in general. And hopefully that means we've covered everything. If we run out of time, please just get in touch with me. Whether it's on LinkedIn or through email or through Collaberex, ask me any question that I haven't covered. I
Can you
enjoy
stay a
talking
few
about.
minutes after if we
I
get a few
can
questions?
stay.
Okay,
Yeah, I
just
can
a few
stay.
minutes in case
So
there's
I
some
think
extra
one of
questions.
the big questions which someone brought up was what's happening with my data? So essentially, when you talk to ChatGPT or Claude or whatever, your data is in a sense secure because it's staying in their system, but they are sharing it with the system. So ChatGPT will share every single response that you send to ChatGPT to improve ChatGPT's output for other people, if that makes sense. So whether it's the files or the images or the text or the prompts, it does that data is there and it is shared back and forth to improve the user experience. Now, I don't think anyone's heard of any massive data breaches so far, and obviously these companies, it's going to be their priority, but that is what's happening with it. So essentially, they just share it within itself, how to improve it for other people. So when you ask something and you get a response, someone else later down the line may get a better response because of the information you asked. Um, could it, if someone asked it very specific information about someone else, could it pull it up? I'm not sure. I haven't experimented with that yet. They would say no. They would say that that's not possible. But they do have very detailed privacy policies and they are working very hard on securing that. However, there are issues there because a lot of people want to use AI in more sensitive areas. There's a lot of chat about bringing it into healthcare, bringing it into law, and where people are going to share sensitive information and personal information. With the free versions and even the pro versions, that's not recommended because they haven't built in data security systems into them. Where these data security systems can exist is when people take these generative AI models and basically make them into something more specific and add that onto it. So, like, for example, with Enable and Chip, our partner, like what we would plan to have is for all of our data to be GDPR, HIPAA, which I think is a big one in America, and another Brazilian, like very data compliant and data secure. But Chip is the one who does that. Even though you can use different AI models, it's Chip who's adding this service onto their own. And then because we build our apps through Enable, we then have that data security for all of our members. And that's important to remember because a lot of AI platforms and AI tools will use that. So you have to think about that. So for example, one of the things I'm building, like Mini Paul said, is a physiotherapy thing. So there's going to be a lot of sensitive information on that. I know that the data is going to be secure. So I'm very, very pleased with that. I actually mentioned this to them about 6 months ago. So this is really, really good. So that's something to be aware of. The other thing I suppose is copyright, because people are like we said, you can just take an output from ChatGPT and do what with it. Someone was mentioning that they were using it on Amazon, and you can now say like made with AI. The general copyright rules still exist. For something to be claimed as your own, you have to be able to prove that you edited at least 51% of what the original thing was. So I have been told that the rules haven't changed because of AI. It's still the same rules that apply. So I guess that means like in the past, if you just saw an idea from a competitor and then you were able to prove that you did 51% of changes, it's okay. And it's the same with AI. So if it gives you an output, if you change 51% of it, you can claim it as your own. If not, you can't claim it as your own. However, I don't really think it's a massive problem. You only have to think about this like for content creation. I don't think that's an issue. If it comes to you maybe selling something specific, like a book or whatever, then yeah, you run the risk of other people being able to basically create the same thing and you have nothing to say about it. You can't do anything about it. But the same rules still apply. So I think that's just important to remember as well. That's there, same as normal. And yeah, and then I think that was kind of everything that I wanted to cover. And I'm really, really thankful to everyone who joined, who shared all their experiences and thoughts. Very collaborative experience. I'll hang around for a bit more. If there's any questions that you have further, please let me know, whether it's in the chat now or later on in life. But thank you so much, everyone, and have a lovely rest of your day.
Thank you very much, Paul. If anyone has some other specific questions that they want to ask Paul, he will hang out for a
I'll
couple of minutes and
I'll
we'll see if
open
we
the
can
chat.
get to them. So you could just raise your hand and ask any question or tell about an experience that you might have that.
Okay, Paul, just kind of a generic question. I found that most of the AIs, even Claude, which is more geared toward writing, has a really difficult time with character limits. Like I run a lot of Google ads for my clients, and with RSAs, they just ask for an absurd amount of headlines. So I'll use that to generate ideas. And thus far, I basically use it to get a baseline, and then I take it as an idea and I go from there. But I'm curious if an AI assistant that's more of an expert on that as a specific field could actually see the character limits that it's using. Because like ChatGPT, I've done that and been like, create 15 headlines within these limits. None of them are there. And I'm like, okay, like you're over on your character count. It's like, sorry, let me fix that. It's still over. And I've gone through it like 4 times. I'm like, never mind. But and with
Yeah.
Claude was better. But it might have been like 3 characters over limit instead of 18. But I was just curious if that is trainable or if it's something within how AI looks at characters that it just can't keep that in mind as it generates.
No, I would say that that's definitely trainable and something that would be done with custom GPT. Essentially, it would need to have some prior knowledge base that it's basing itself off of that it would refer to constantly. And that would probably go over like the guidelines of how it worked. This could be a website page, this could be a document file, this could be an Excel spreadsheet. It could be a video, because if a video, it can just basically look at the transcript. The other way that it can get very specific is you can connect them to APIs and existing sort of knowledge sources. So when you get really specific about data like that, that's where you can use it. I know a lot of people have built apps where they connect it directly with Google SEO, Google Ads, and like SEMrush and all these like SEO data analytics tools. And then if you ask it something like that, it will go jump onto those websites, check exactly what's going on, and give you the result like that. So yes, it is definitely possible, but it would be like a more specialist use, whether it's like an app that's built specifically for, I guess for it, it's more because the clients you work with, they all have different requirements, essentially, like the character limits change, or it's quite a sort of set in stone thing.
Character limits are always set in stone.
Yeah.
Obviously the content that we fill those character limits with varies dramatically by client, even by campaign for a client. But the limits are
Yeah.
the limits. Google doesn't let you
Yeah, exactly. Then yeah, of
change
course,
what you.
there's so much, especially if the primary tool is like Google. Like I built an SEO one where I basically give it Google's documentation on how to write good SEO. That was its knowledge base. So if its knowledge base was something like that, then it would produce the results. It would take some tweaking. It's like everything when you start building your own apps and doing the instructions. You'll notice that the results aren't perfect. It's like everything, you have to test and tweak and change and audit. And that's where the sort of prompting skills become much more required so that you know what you're doing. But yeah, definitely. And if it's something that you really think would speed up the sort of business and make things more efficient and effective, then it's something that Enable could definitely help with. So yeah, just keep that in mind, Sean. But thank you so much for bringing up that question.
I've
Thank
already
you.
booked with you. You probably already know this, but I should just let you know since most people here are US based. The latest time you have had available was 8:30 a.m. here. So some people may have been trying to book with you. If you
That's
have
a great point.
switch, you might want to reach
Yeah.
out to Jonathan with an alternative link for a week or so. I don't know.
Yeah. Is that the case for some more people? That it's
Well,
is a bit crazy. I'm happy to
I
open up my
grabbed an
calendar.
8:30 slot, but anyone else that wants to meet with you that day has got to get you at 3:30 in the morning. So
Oh, okay. That's a very good point. Yeah, yeah, that's true. I will do that actually. So for everyone who is interested, I will update my calendar after this meeting and make it more appropriate. So if you keep an eye on the link in here, we will do that. But thank you so much, Sean. That's amazing. Any other questions?
Okay. Thank you so much, Paul. This was
No, thank
this
you.
was
Yeah.
wonderful. And everyone that's a member here, this was recorded and it'll be on the portal in a couple days. Pierce?
Yeah, I got a quick
Here's,
question.
go
Maybe
ahead.
it might not be quick. Um, in thinking about, so I have a client that's in the mental health space, and there's a massive amount of research and data, and there's a whole methodology and a program for helping people in that. So there's a ton of data that can be brought, but it's all proprietary.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you think are like, is it chip or what are some of the best platforms for keeping that proprietary data? Is there a way that you can work with one of these AI tools that says this stays proprietary? You can research it all you want, but it stays over here. It doesn't become part of the overall knowledge base because that would
Yeah.
be problematic.
Yeah, that's a very good point. So when it's almost not even, it's what is it doing with the data when it's in? So that's what Chip is building into its systems now, like full
Mhm.
on like data privacy security systems. Where you can basically, yeah, you can set it up and you can have it though that some data will be stored, most data will be forgotten and not used as a reference point. Like the data will be stored in chip. This is how they explained it, but your AI won't be calling on it all the time unless you want it to. And what they also do, I know, is that they can actually build the AI on the client's server. So say someone wants to have complete control, have it
Mhm.
on their own server, and control every aspect of what happens with the data, they can do that. They can do that
Okay.
for you as well. They always just said if anyone's interested in that, for me to then make the introduction for them, but they can do that. But then essentially Chip has their own way of dealing with it, which they're just launching now. But then they can also take it a step further, and if the user wants to have complete control and security and host it themselves and handle their own data, they can. But yeah, you
Okay.
need to find these tools that are doing it. So the free options, they're not going to do that because they're basically setting up this new marketplace where they sell their language learning models to other businesses who package them in different ways. So they're never going to add that service because that's going to be the job of the other platforms in the world. Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Good question to end with. Everyone,
Yeah.
anyone
Very
else
good.
last minute before we close it down?
Really good.
Okay. Thank you, Paul. Thank
No,
you.
thank you so
Thanks,
much,
Paul. Thanks,
everyone.
Kate.
Yes, everyone have a great afternoon. And Paul, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, everyone. Have a wonderful day. Bye.